So I've been playing a lot of Pocopia lately, and I don't know how many hours in I am now, but time just doesn't mean anything anymore. You forget to eat, you forget to sleep. There's other things going on I need to spend time to, Pocopia. I can't just play you all day every day as much as I would like to. But don't worry, I did go outside and touch grass this weekend. But something that kind of flew under the radar at this time is that we passed 100 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for being here. I wanted to do some kind of something to celebrate, but I have also been wanting to do something Pocopia. So naturally, in celebration of Pocopia, where you play as a Ditto, I thought, wouldn't it be fun if I made dittos? 100 dittos, to be exact, to celebrate 100 followers, because that's pretty cool that 100 people decided to follow my channel. I underestimated the amount of time this was going to take me, and I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to make 100 of them. It's just going to take me a bit longer than I thought it would. I didn't use a pattern to make this. I just kind of went with what I thought would be the right shape. And now I've done it a bunch of times, so I just kind of have it memorized how I make them. So this video is going to be a little ditto tutorial. But my general approach to crochet is it's not that I can't count stitches, it's that I don't really like counting stitches. There's a lot of distractions out there. Like if you're someone like me, I'm easily distracted, in which case I easily lose track of my numbers. So I like to just eyeball things and wing it. And the great thing about Ditto is that he's a blob. So if it's not perfect, it's still kind of perfect. But yeah, so for this pattern, I did go through and write down the directions for what generally made up the Ditto. Feel free to follow the written instructions that will be paired along with the video. And as a bonus, at the end of this video, I will show you a modification so that you can turn this into this with the long arms. So first things first, let's talk supplies. For this tutorial, I'm going to use purple yarn. I've lost my crochet hook. Found it. For this example, I'm going to be using a 4.5 sized hook. You can use a bigger or smaller one if you like. Stitch markers, a sewing crochet needle, poly pellets to help fill the dittos, and I've been putting them into these pantyhose sock things that I got off of Amazon. So what that kind of looks like is this. Safety eyes. I don't have these labeled, so I don't know what size these are, but I kind of, he's got a very little eye that are like spaced apart. So I've just been kind of going for these smaller sizes. You could even cut out felt if you wanted to. And then I've got my little baggie of the backs for the safety eyes. Then I got my skizzes, and I think that's it. So let's jump into it. Okay, so I start this out with what they call a magic ring. The way that I do a magic ring, I take the yarn, lay it across my hand like this, kind of pinch it with my thumb, bring it around, and then I make an X crossing over here, bring it across the back of my hand, hold that in place with my pinky, and I end up with these two strings and kind of holding that X with my thumb so that this tension is tight, like this string ain't going nowhere, right? Take my hook, go under the first, on top of the second. I grab that with the hook part, pull it through the bottom, and this is what that looks like. And then I flip my hook, grab this tail like that, and pull it through my loop like that. From here, I will grab this point with my thumb and pointer finger on my right hand, kind of let this hand go. As you'll see, this yarn's kind of twisted around itself, so I'll pull that yarn out of there. From this point, I will take this yarn, and this is how I set up my hand to maintain like a steady tension. I will wrap it around my pinky, and then go over this side of my fingers, wrap it around my pointer finger, And this is like my system for how I feed the yarn through my hand, and it helps me keep the tension tighter. So from here, I'm going to grab this loop and the tail with my middle finger and my thumb, take my pointer finger here and just kind of spread this loop to keep it open. So now the tension is tight here, so now I can move this hand freely without the yarn going everywhere. From this point, we want to do 5 single crochet into this loop. Inside the loop, grab that yarn, pull it through. Now I've got 2 loops on my hook. Grab that yarn again, pull it through both loops. That is 1 single crochet. We are going to do this 4 more times for a total of 5. Hard to see the stitches, but if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on our loop, from this point, I'm going to just kind of grab a hold of this, let my left hand go. So from here, you see our tail's gotten a bit shorter and we still have this loop here. So if we want to close this, we're going to grab the tail and you want to gently kind of pull this, and there will be some resistance, so I kind of wiggle it around and try to scoot these stitches down if you can. Gently pull and your circle will close, just like that. So what you're left with is like this kidney bean shape. From here, I will grab this yarn again, and there's a little knot here, but I ain't worried about that, it's fine. And wrap it around my pinky, wrap it around my pointer. Here I've got my tension. With our little kidney bean, you see these 2 stitches on top. We're gonna go through those 2. 1, 2, just like that. Grab our yarn, pull it through. Now we've got 2 loops on our hook. If you wanted to do a single crochet, you'd grab the yarn, pull through both. But in order to close our kidney bean, we want to do a slip stitch. So I'm going to take this yarn that I have on my hook and just pull straight through. That is a slip stitch. And now we've got a little circle. And this is what we call our magic ring. So now I'm going to make another one of these. This is our first magic ring. To make our ditto, we need 3 of them. So for the first 2, I'm going to cut the tail, and you don't need a long one here, and I'm just going to pull that right through. And this is 1. Set that to the side. We're going to do this again. Okay, so we finished our 3rd magic ring. Now for the sake of this tutorial, I will use a stitch marker. So on this one, this stitch that your loop is coming out of, we want to mark. And I usually put the stitch marker just on this front loop here. So from this point, we are going to connect this ring with these 2. And that creates these bottom 3 little bumps. I will take one of these, and you'll see on one side of the ring you don't have any strings coming out of it, but on the other side you've got a string coming out. We want the side that doesn't have the string coming out of it. So you see this string that we pulled through here, this stitch right next to it, we're going to go in there. We're going to grab the yarn that's connected to our yarn ball, get that stance for the tension, and then we're going to, you'll see that we've got 1 loop on the ring that we didn't cut off. Now we're in the stitch of our 2nd ring, and this is the yarn that feeds to our yarn ball. We're going to grab that yarn, pull it through the stitch. Now we have 2 loops on our hook. We're going to slip stitch it, so we're just going to pull right through. That connects these 2 pieces. From here, we're going to do 3 single crochet across these 3 stitches. So from this point, we're going to grab our next ring, and again you'll see that it's got a string coming out of the bottom. We want the other side. Where our string is coming out of the side here, we want the stitch next to that. We're going to put our hook in, grab our yarn that's connected to the ball, pull it around, pull it through that third ring. So we have 2 loops on our hook, and we're going to slip stitch that in. And then we're going to single crochet through these next 3 stitches. So now we've got all 3 rings connected, but you'll see we've got all this stuff hanging off the other side. Don't worry about that. Now, from this point, we're going to single crochet all along this side of the rings until we get to our stitch marker. So this is what it looks like after you've gone all around. Your little lumps are starting to kind of concave on themselves, so they get this like kind of, they're starting to fold, they don't stay flat. And if yours is kind of inverted like this, I just kind of push my finger in there to flip it outwards like that, because you want your strings to be on the inside of the ditto, so you kind of want to push these little things out so that they're starting to already form the little lumps at the bottom. Snip these off. From this point, we are going to single crochet around the whole thing back to the stitch marker, which should be around 22 stitches. Okay, once you've made it back around, now we're going to single crochet 1, and then we're going to increase in this next stitch. And to increase, you're going to do a single crochet 2 times in the same stitch. So what that looks like is 1 single crochet, and in that same stitch, we're going back in another single crochet, and that's an increase. And then we're going to do 10 single crochets. Okay, we're actually going to do 11. Like I said, a lot of times, depending on how these 3 bumps go, will kind of dictate how the ditto turns out. So the counts are kind of a guideline, not an exact approximation. But basically, you want to do your increases as close to the middle as you can get. So instead of 10 stitches, we did 11. And now our next 2 stitches are more centered. So in this next stitch, we're going to go ahead and increase. That's 1 in the same stitch. That's 2, that's 1 increase. Now we're going to single crochet back to our stitch marker. And it's totally okay if your stitch count doesn't match mine, because every ditto is different. Like a ditto is a little blob guy, so as long as you've got like the basic shape down, I don't think the count matters all that much. You could even put in more stitches if you want your ditto to be bigger, or less stitches if you want it to be smaller. But yeah, okay. So we're back at our stitch marker. So from this point, we're going to do single crochet all the way around 2 times back to the stitch marker. So all the way back around is 1, all the way back around 2. So at this point, we can go ahead and move our stitch marker up and put it on our current stitch. It looks like that. And we're going to single crochet all the way around until we get back to this corner side here. So like 2 stitches before our stitch marker, and that'll be around 19 single crochets. so this is us at 19. We'll go 20, 21. So we're about 1, 2, 3 single crochets between where we're at and our stitch marker. So what you're going to want to do here in this next stitch is we're going to do a bobble stitch, and this is going to be the arm, the first arm. So a bobble stitch seems a little complicated, but to do it, first we're going to wrap the string around our hook. So we have these 2 loops on our hook, and in this next stitch we're going to go into the stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through. Now you'll see we've got 1, 2, 3 loops on our hook. We're going to grab that yarn, pull it only through the first 2. That's 1, that's 2. So from here you see now we have 2 loops on our yarn. We're going to wrap this around again. Now we've got 3. Back into that same stitch, in the stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through. Now you'll see we've got 4 loops on our hook. Grab the yarn, pull it through the first 2. That's 1, that's 2. Now we end up with 3 loops on our hook. So the goal in the bobble stitch is that we're doing this until we end up with 5 loops on our hook. So we're going to do this 2 more times. Wrap around, go in that same stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through the first 2. That's 1, that's 2. Here you see we've got 4. So we want to do this 1 more time so we have 5. That's 1, and that's 2. So now you see we've got 5 loops on our hook. We're going to grab the yarn, pull it through all 5, just like that. So they're kind of bunched up here. Then I'm going to take my hook and go through this stitch right next to the one we've been working in, just like that. Grab the hook. Now we've got 2 loops on our hook. Our little bunch here, I'm going to kind of push through so that our hook is on the back end of it. Grab the yarn, pull it through both loops. So here we end up with this bump, and we pulled the yarn through those 2 loops. Then I'm going to grab this and I'm going to pull it to tighten that up. So we just end up with this little ball on the end, and that's called a bobble. Then we're going to single crochet back to our stitch marker, just like that. Good. So that's one arm. We want to have a second arm on the opposite side. So again, at this corner of your ditto. So you're going to single crochet around 6 or 7. All right, that's 7. We'll go 1 more. So 8, because I just kind of want to set the arm here. I just want to set the arm here at the end. So in this next stitch, I'm going to do another bobble. Wrapping the yarn around the hook, going in that stitch, grabbing the yarn, pulling it through these first 2 loops, just like that. Wrapping again, back into the same stitch, pulling through the first 2. Now I've got 3. Same stitch, first 2. Now we've got 4. 1 more. Same stitch, first 2, and now we've got 5. Grabbing the yarn, pulling through all 5, going into this very next stitch, pulling the yarn through, so we've got 2 loops, pushing our little bunch out, and pulling the yarn through those 2 hoops, and then tightening. So then we've got another little bump. 2 bumps, and those are our arms. Now we'll continue single crochets back to our stitch marker. All right, So this is how we're looking so far. We've got our 3 little bumps at our bottom of our ditto and our 2 arms. Okay, so from this point we're going to single crochet all around, but similar to when we did our increase, when we reach the middle of the front and the back, we want to do a decrease. So you can kind of fit that in wherever you would like, as long as it's in the middle section. You will go like a single crochet, you're going to go in the next stitch, pull that yarn through, so you've got 2 loops. But unlike doing a single crochet where you just pull it through, you're going to go into the next stitch, do the same thing. So now you've got 3 loops on your hook, grab the yarn, pull it through all 3, and tighten that up. And we're going to single crochet our way to the middle of the back here. Once we reach the middle area of the back, like right here, I'm going to do another decrease. So through the first stitch, through the second stitch, pulling through all 3, tightening that up. And then single crochet our way back to our stitch marker. And I have lost my game of chicken with this yarn, so I will be right back. Let me go grab some more. Continuing from where we were, we want to get back to the middle of our ditto. So I'm going to crochet 2 to get here to the middle, single crochets. This is the point where I kind of stop and I put in the eyes. From this point, we're going to connect the front to the back, and if you're trying to stuff it through like smaller holes, it can be kind of hard to do. So we're going to stop and do our eyes and our pellets. Also, from this point, we're not going to be really using this as a reference anymore, so we're just going to be taking this out. So I need to look through my eyes and find a good sized eyeball for a ditto. I mean, you can give your ditto really big eyes if you want to. There's not really any wrong answer here. The way that I've been putting the eyes is kind of towards the middle or top of the arm. I usually place the right side first and then kind of place the left based on that. As you'll see, these stitches here, I usually just kind of count 1 or 2 from where the arm is. We'll try 1. Just stick it in there. And you see this line here? I know wherever I place my other eye, I want it to be on the same line. I think that looks good. I think that's a good distance. So once you've decided where you want your eyes, and remember, I put them around the same line as where the arms are at, and around 4 to 5 stitches apart, and just making sure that they are both on the same line. Other than that, like, you can use big eyes, little eyes, you can sew in eyes, you can glue on felt eyes, it doesn't really matter. All right, we've got our eyes set. So now is whenever I put the pellet bag in. And since this is a bigger ditto, my little pellet bags aren't going to work, so I need to make a big one, which works well enough because then you guys can see it too. So I take my little pantyhose, I just hold it open, get my little pellets here, and I just grab little handfuls and just start dropping them in. And I just kind of eyeball it, usually 3 or 4 bigger scoops. We'll do it, we'll do 4. So then you just kind of see where you're at. It's about this full right now, which in comparison to the ditto, I'd say that's a pretty good amount. Once I'm happy with where my amount, oh, I'm making a mess. Once I'm happy with where my amount is, I'm just going to tie it like a balloon. Just kind of shuffle that tie down tight like that. And then I will cut off this excess piece. And this piece is long enough that that's where you see, like here, where it's tied at both ends, because I can still use this piece. So I'll put that to the side to use later. And this is my bag of filling. So I'll take that And I will just put it into the ditto, just like that, just a snug little plop thing. It gives shape to the ditto, almost like a little stress ball ditto, because you can like feel the little grains in there. So we've got our pellets in, we've got our eyes on. So from here, this part will seem a little tricky, but it's not bad, I promise. We're going to chain 2. So you're just going to pull your yarn through that loop. That's 1. Pull the yarn through the loop. That's 2. So now that we've got our little chain, we're going to connect this side to the back side. So I try to pick a stitch that looks like it's in the middle. So we're going to go with this one. Oh wait, I want my yarn to be on this side of the hook. So we're going to go into the back stitch. We're going to grab the yarn, pull through. Now we've got 2 loops, pull through both. And as you can see, now we've connected like a little bridge between the front and the back, which looking at this, you can see one side is smaller than the other, and I kind of want them to be more even. So I'm going to take that little piece out, just like that. So I still have my 2 chains on here, and I'm going to move it 1 stitch over, do the same thing, kind of look at it again, and that looks a bit more even. So from this point, we're going to work just on this side. To do this side, we're going to single crochet around the whole thing until you cross this bridge. That's 1. So let's do that first before the next step. So once we get to this little, what I call the bridge, so going in from the bottom, you just kind of have to wiggle your hook through till you're through the chain, single crochet. Now there's another stitch next to that one. Try to wiggle your hook through, single crochet, and then we're going to go back into this stitch here and single crochet. Okay, so we reach back to our starting point, across the bridge. So from here, we're going to do 1 single crochet, then a decrease the whole way back around. So we've made it back across the bridge. We're back to the beginning piece. So from here, it's kind of optional. As you can see, we've already gained some height on this part. This part I've been making taller than the second part. So you could go back, like decrease all the way around here if you want to. So what that will look like. I think that's pretty good. You don't need to decrease until this whole thing is closed. We're going to sew it closed. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So first you want to cut a tail in the yarn, a decent size, probably a good couple inches. We're going to pull that through, just like that. So you've got your, he always looks real weird at this stage. So you've got your little ditto here, and you got this tail hanging off. This is where your needle comes in. Where'd my needle go? There it is. So you're going to take your little sewing needle and thread your yarn through. From here, we see our little circle. We're going to go in the front loop. So you know all the stitches have these two loops on them. We're only going through the front one on all the stitches around here. And you don't need to pull it tight yet. We're just going through the front loop all the way around. And now that we've weaved the yarn in there, what you're going to do is gently pull the yarn, and it closes up the hole, just like that. So then I take this piece, stick it back through the top here, and feed it out somewhere in the back. So like right here is fine. I don't pull that tight, I just pull it tight enough that the yarn's not up here anymore, and that's good. So now we've got our one little bump. and I will come back to this piece later. So from this point, I will put a little bit of stuffing into this part, not like super firm, just like squishy, so that it holds its shape. So let's get some stuffing. That was something I forgot to address in the supplies. So I've got a little bit of stuffing here. So I'm just going to push that into this little bump so that it's like squishy. Just like that. At this point, now we want to do this side. But as you can see, we don't have any yarn connected. So we're gonna have to connect some yarn. To do that, I take the yarn tail and we're gonna make a slip knot. To make a slip knot, so we've got our, you're gonna go under, pull this through, and basically just pull this. Just tighten this up. And this makes a little knot. And that's our slip knot. So you can pull the tail that's connected to the yarn ball to make this tighter. So we've got our little knot here. So I'm just gonna have that pause. I stick into the ditto, and usually I just do any one of these back stitches here, usually the middle one. I'll stick through that stitch, take our little knot here, put it on my hook. Then I'm gonna grab this yarn in my tension stance, pull it through, and now it's like we did a single crochet, right? So we're gonna go in the next stitch, grab the yarn, single crochet, and now we can just continue onward. And if you find your little knot coming through, you can always just grab that tail and pull on it. As we go around here, we're just gonna tuck this tail into the ditto, so that's fine. Okay, so similar to this side, we're gonna do single crochet the whole way around first. And you'll find that as you get to this bridge part, we're going to kind of, it's hard to see, especially with plush yarn. There's like 1, 2, 3 stitches here. So I just kind of try to stab my hook in there, pull the yarn through, single crochet, stab the hook in there again, pull the yarn through, single crochet, stab the hook in there again, single yarn, single crochet, and that's us through the bridge. So the second pass around will be easier. It's usually the first pass around that's the trickiest. Okay, so this tail I'm gonna go ahead and tuck in here. We don't need that anymore. So we're gonna continue single crochets the whole way around. You can use a stitch marker to mark where you started if you want to, but usually I can just kind of feel where the knot is, and I know that I started in the middle here, so that's kind of my end point for this row. So from here is going to be starting like my next row. For the next row, we're going to be doing 1 single crochet decrease the whole way around. So that takes about 3 times to get all the way around. We'll do another single crochet to kind of end it. So from this point, you can kind of see the height between the two. I like to pretty well sort of start on closing this up because I like this part to be bigger than this part, but you can build this part up if you want them to be like the same size, similar to what we did over here if you want. But this hole is still a bit big, so I'm going to do 2 decreases to kind of make it smaller. And then I'll do 1 single crochet. So now this is about the size of what the hole is. So from this point, I will cut my yarn, pull it through, just like that, and get a bunch of little fuzzies on his eye. So before we close this up, we do want to put more stuffing in here. So let me grab more stuffing. So from this point, I'm going to do the same thing we did over here. Use the front loops of these to sew this part closed using our needle. And then I'm going to go in through the top, and I'm going to make this come out at the same spot that our other tail is. And again, I'm not pulling this super tight. And then you just kind of squish it around until it's a shape you're happy with. So we've got our 2 tails back here. I'm going to tie these together, and again, not pulling too tight. I pulled a little tight. You just kind of squish that out. Okay, there we go. So then we're going to double knot this just like that. And then I will cut the tails a little shorter. Again, this can be used for stuffing and other projects. Oops. And then where these 2 little tails are sticking out, I'm going to use my needle to just kind of push it in. Just like that. And now it's just gone. So the last thing we need to do for our ditto is put on the mouth. Okay, so I have just a basic like string of black worsted yarn here. So I'll thread it. And then I take the yarn and I go through like one of these side stitches here, and I'll pop out 1 stitch below the eye to the left of it, right about there. Pull through some yarn, and then I want to do 1 stitch over on this side, the right side of this eye, and I'll pull the yarn through just like that. And then I want this yarn to pop out over where I entered, so we're just going to go back in that same spot over to this side like that, and pull. See where it's sticking out? We're just gonna boop, and it's gone. So we just kind of get the mouth where we want it, just like that. And then we're going to tie this off. We finished our ditto! We did it! It's a bit bigger than this one, but as you can see, they all just kind of end up different sizes. But I think that's fun. I think that's just part of it. And we did it! Here are our finished dittos. But thank you guys for watching this video. It's my first time videotaping some kind of crochet tutorial, so I'm sorry if it was a bit of a mess and all over the place and if some of it didn't make sense. But this is just kind of my approach to crocheting. Like, a lot of it's not very structured, and a lot of it's kind of up to interpretation, and I kind of like it that way because, I mean, I understand the importance of consistency when it comes to patterns if you want to replicate the same thing over and over and over again. But I kind of think it's charming whenever they're not the same, whenever there's little differences. It makes everyone unique, right? So that, and I'm lazy and I don't like to count. Leave a like or comment if this video was helpful for you in making your own ditto. If you use this video to make your own dittos, I would love to see them. Please tag us at Inksy online if you end up making a ditto. This is just kind of a base pattern that I've been using to make most of the dittos, but I am experimenting with other poses, like the bonus modification for the long arm ditto. Also, I've even been experimenting with making a little tall blobby ditto. Thanks again for bearing through this with me. I hope some of it was somewhat helpful for some of you guys. Just kind of getting a glimpse into my process whenever I crochet free-handed. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. And just for fun, feel free to drop your favorite Pokemon in the comments below. Anyway, bye! Alright, we've made it to the bonus end of the video where I'm going to show you the modification to make these little long curvy arms instead of the little bobble arms we've been doing. So to make these long curvy ones, you follow the pattern as normal up to the point where you would do your first bobble stitch. So that's when you have single crocheted around and you've got 3 stitches left. So instead of doing a bobble in this stitch, what we're going to do is we're going to chain 2, skip 1-2 stitches, go into the 3rd, single crochet. Then we're going to single crochet 9 stitches to the other side, around 9 or 10 stitches depending on your ditto. you're going to do chain 2, 1, 2, skip 2, go in the 3rd stitch, single crochet, and then we're going to single crochet back to our stitch marker. Okay, so once you've gotten back to your stitch marker, you've got 2 little holes here on either side. So from here you'll follow the pattern as normal to do the top half of your ditto, make your little lumps the same, adding the eyes at the same part. Instead of having the little bobbles to guide you where the eyes are, you'll just place them based on where your holes are. So you'll see this line kind of extends to both, so I'll put my eyes on this line. And then we'll come back once we finish this part to do our arms. Okay, so once you've gotten to this part where you've closed up your top, you got your eyes on and everything, we still have the holes here on either side. So now we're going to go one arm at a time and make the arms. So to make the arms, we are going to do our little slip knot. Just like that. We're gonna go into the arm in one of the stitches here. Put our little loop on, pull it through, into the next stitch, and single crochet, and then pull on that tail, get it tucked in there. We don't need that out. Okay, and now we're gonna single crochet around the whole opening of the arm. And so we've made one round back to where we started. And as you can see, now we kind of have the hole protruding a bit. So we're going to keep single crocheting around this circle. Let's do 2 more rows. And it takes about 8 single crochets to get back to this bottom part where we started. So as you can see, the arm's starting to come out. So now I'm going to do 2 more rows, but on the next 2 rows, whenever I get to this top portion, that's the same as the top of the ditto, I'm going to do 1 decrease. Single crochet all around with a decrease on top. We're going to do that twice. So as you can see, our arm, by doing those decreases, we're starting to taper a little bit, starting to get a little bit more narrow here at the end. So as far as how long you want your arms to be, it kind of is up to you. You can basically just keep single crocheting rows on here to make it longer. And at the end, I'm going to show you how to curve them. So I usually just kind of gauge it by how close I'm getting to the top of the head. If I want the arms to like extend a little over the head, like I could go another 3 or 4 rows. But if you want arms the same size, like on this one, this arm is a little shorter than this one. So it really just kind of depends on how long you want your arms. You'll just keep single crocheting and adding rows to this to make it longer. So now let's check it. Like that, I think that's a pretty decent size. So from here, I will snip the yarn, pull it through, and then we're going to thread it like that. And we're going to remember front loop only, not pulling too tight right now, all around, oops, the piece. Like that. And then we'll pull to close it so it comes to like this little head here. You can see it. And so we've got our little long arm sticking out here with the long tail. So we're going to take this tail and what we're going to do is along the top part of this arm, we're going to weave this in and out, in and out, in and out down the arm to ultimately around this area go in the arm and pull the yarn out the back. So what that'll look like is starting from the tip here, I'm going to go in and then poke out, back in, poke out, back in, poke out, and back in, and back in again. And we're going to try to make our needle come out the back. It doesn't really matter where, just somewhere in the back. And then you pull it through like that. So what this does is it makes the arm bunch in on itself whenever you pull it like that. And that will curve the arm like that. So you can pull this tighter if you want it to be curved more. And once I kind of got it where I want it to kind of lock this in place, I will go in like the stitch right next to where my string popped out, like that. And in this little loop before it's flush, I'll thread the needle through that loop. So it makes this little knot here. And then I pull that tight. And then I'm gonna go back in one of those two stitches and make my needle come out somewhere else. So we're gonna do the same thing on the other side, and then you're gonna have your tail, your final tail come out this same one so we can tie them together and push it into the body. So let's do another arm on this side. And so once you're done, it looks a little something like this with its little curvy arms. So the last thing to do is embroider the mouth. And there we have it. Both versions of our Ditto.